I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jeremy.
I'm grateful tonight for practitioner support and all that this church offers that is helping me to really understand the difference between human goodness and divine goodness. I never truly knew what good really was, so the best I could ever do was keep track of what didn't work, things that were obviously bad, and then try to do my best to avoid them. Of course, while being married, it didn't work if my spouse refused to avoid those things. A false sense of goodness always kept me in some pretty unhealthy situations because I thought I was being supportive and loyal to the person I was with. It was only after all that human goodness failed completely that I was brought to Christian Science as taught in this church. Here I've learned a few really important things. Loyalty to person is never good, while loyalty to God is always good. Each individual has their own responsibility to take up their cross and follow Christ. And divine goodness blesses all, while human goodness blesses no one. All I've learned these past few years truly helped me when someone I had a relationship with in the past came back into my life for a short time last year. I was able to keep my focus on my work for God while sharing what I've been learning here with her. In the end, she was unable to see why any of this was important and cut off contact with me. She felt I had changed, and gladly she was right. I have such peace with this resolution because the support of my practitioner and what Christian Science has taught me, for the first time in my life I was able to be at peace with the end of a relationship, and this is such healing for me. I know I did what I could, and I know I wasn't disloyal to God. I'm so grateful to have gained this understanding of what divine goodness is. Thank you.
Thank you. Lil.
I'm so grateful for a recent roundtable. Theme of it was Early Will I Seek Thee. I really needed it to discipline my thought to consistently go to God for everything I do, such as upon awakening, and throughout the day, know that God is my mind and my life, and upon going to sleep, being grateful for all of God's good that day. Until that class, for a long time, I had been awakening with a lot of congestion in my head. That Monday, after that class, that Monday morning when I woke up, there was no congestion. That was not a coincidence. I couldn't stop thanking God for this blessing, as I know it was a result of being obedient to the teaching in that class. My head was cleared because my thought was cleared. That was from God, and I am so grateful for His love. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful readings, such wonderful truths to work with. There's such a power and presence of good in these services, uplifting all. On Sunday, I was dealing with a problem, but was also praying for the service and knew that everyone else was as well. Jesus said, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." I felt this presence, and when the performance of I Am the Vine was over, I was completely free. I am very grateful for the dedication to truth in this church and for the message of truth that is sent out to the whole world.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for the readings and the service this evening. I am grateful for what is taught here on how to stay alert and focused on the present. Before coming here, I would allow my thought to drift or run all over the place, and did not understand the importance of the thoughts I entertained. This makes feeling God and hearing His messages near impossible. Now I am learning to use the time to pray and be more disciplined in my thinking, something that I did not believe was possible before I came to Plainfield. The other day I fell back into this old habit of what has been termed here surplus thinking. Carpenter explains in 500 Watching Point, number 297, as, quote, human thinking he indulges in when he is relaxed and off guard, end quote. Instead of praying about a situation I was involved in and turning to God, I was indulging in how I was going to do this and that and the other thing, and being caught up in all the personal details of a situation. I was not being in the moment, but off planning and mulling over the next interaction. I was cooking and not paying attention and cut the tip of my finger with a sharp knife. This did get my attention, was a sharp reminder of the importance of paying attention. After rinsing it off and covering it with a bandage, I mentally got down on my knees and saw my mistake. I was getting myself in the way of God. I turned back to prayer and used many of the things my practitioner has given me. Pretty quickly the cut stopped bleeding and did not hurt much, but in the middle of the night I woke up with sharp pain. I continued to pray about the relationship. This time it gave me a chance to get myself even more out of the way by putting my trust in God's direction. I stopped the planning and rehearsing of opinions, and this brought peace and order to my thinking. I was able to go back to sleep. I found I needed to respect this person's relationship with God without me putting myself in the middle. The deep cut was closed and healed in under 3 days. I'm very grateful for God's grace. It was a good lesson in being obedient to Christ Jesus, who countless times has warned us of the importance of watching our thinking. I'm very grateful for the Plainfield Church who models and continues to teach this. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
Yes, it was mentioned tonight about on the website, the article called Radiation or Absorption. And from that is the beginning part reads, God, the source of all being, the atmosphere, so to speak, in which all living, move, and have being, is radiation, continual action. Man, as his idea, possessing his qualities, also radiates his thought, comprising all that is good, harmonious, and perfect. Well, today I had an interesting experience. I had started my day in a quiet hour of praying for myself and expressing gratitude to God. A little later in the morning, I went to a salon for a hair appointment. And it was a new stylist, and she was very outgoing and friendly. We talked about many things, and she thanked me several times for some comments that she thought were helpful to her dealing with her kids. She mentioned that I seemed calm and relaxed and happy. We spoke about many topics, including the Bible, and then she asked if I belonged to any religion. And I told her I was a Christian Zionist. Now, previously, I would have shrunk from admitting this and tried to avoid talking about it at any cost, afraid that I would say the wrong thing. But because now my understanding of it has increased, I was able to talk to her just briefly, and she was receptive. During the time I was there, she expressed several times that she felt uplifted, how it was going to be a good day. She could feel it was a good atmosphere in the salon, and it was much better than yesterday. After leaving, I realized this didn't just happen. It was the result of my correct thinking this morning, and also while I was there. It was the active thought radiating good coming from God. It was natural and effortless, and it made such a difference. Thank you so much for the reading.
Thank you. Jardel from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. I want to offer my gratitude for the beautiful music and the wonderful readings tonight. And I also would like to offer my gratitude to the fine teaching here at Plainfield Christian Science Church, Independent. Not just for the factual truths about God, but how to apply these truths in our daily lives. For instance, in learning about false prophets in the Bible study last weekend, what they are and how to detect them, I became aware of the true prophets that we read about, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. I have a deeper understanding of their contributions, trials, and often persecutions that they endured to deliver God's messages no matter what. I am beginning to understand that if we obey God to begin with, we do not have to suffer and repent in order to reach restoration and salvation. These faithful prophets warned God's people over and over. This may be an old lesson, but it is true for today, right now. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen from Kansas, go ahead.
Before I came to the Plainfield Church, I went through a rough patch, and I had to accept medical help. Once a year, I had to go to a heart specialist. This heart specialist worked in Wichita, but came to our neck of the woods one day every month. He wanted to check my heart again. I asked our practitioner for help, and she told me to read about heart in miscellaneous writings. And Mrs. Eddy says about heart, there must be a change from the belief that heart is in matter and sustains life to the understanding that God is our only life. End of quotation. When the time came for the checkup, I wasn't worried at all, and the doctor couldn't find anything wrong with my heart. I am so grateful for the practitioner's help and that God brought me to the Plainfield Church. Thank you for the readings and the service.
Thank you. Gary.
I guess we all strive to succeed at something, but one of the lessons that I'm very grateful for that I'm learning in this church, in Christian Science, is what success really is. There's a statement in Science and Health that I love, that I read recently, that says, success in error is defeat in truth. Well, when I got to Plainfield here, I was very ambitious, wanted to succeed very much. I had a very high-paying job in New York that demanded a lot of time and compensated people for spending that time. But the success that it offered was all very human. I mean, the world's definition of success, better job, more money, more this, more that, the admiration of lots of people. Well, I loved the challenge, but it was a very unsatisfying situation for me. I always felt torn between working more and doing things for God, for this church, for my family. And it was something that bothered me for quite some time. And it was when I opened up to a practitioner in this church quite a while ago, and told him about my feeling just constrained, and the practitioner listened, and the response was, well, where is God in all of this? Who are you blessing by doing all this work and all this activity and all this stuff? Well, with that, a light bulb kind of went off inside me. And I began to realize that success is not anything like what the world tells you it is. It's not more things or more admiration of others. Real success is pleasing and obeying God. Period. It's that simple. And yet, for me, when I began to realize it, it made all the difference in my life. Shortly thereafter, I left that job, found something that didn't offer as much human success, but gave me time to work for God, and was much more satisfying. I felt much happier. And I felt like I had been freed from a very destructive belief about success that would have, I don't know how my life would have turned out, but it would not have been good had Christian Science not lifted me out of that really wrong, self-centered concept of success. So I'm grateful for that help and for that experience. My family and I have never lacked anything. And it's not because I've striven for it, but because God takes good care of us, as He cares for all of us. So I thank God for Christian Science, as it's taught and practiced in this church, for the help of that practitioner many years ago, that has given me an inkling of what true success really is. It's great to be here tonight, and I thank you for those fine readings.
Thank you. Day from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Through my study of Christian Science, I've come to understand the importance of questioning sickness, rather than accepting it as the norm or as anything necessary. In the past, whenever I was faced with sickness, I would either get down about it or be afraid of it, while sometimes desperately trying to find a remedy or cure. It never truly occurred to me that the simple fact that I would try to cure sickness meant in itself that by doing so, I was admitting that it was wrong and was not a part of me. I'm grateful for learning through Christian Science that God, good, is all that is real and eternal, and anything unlike good is not of God and therefore cannot be part of me, His reflection, and is never to be accepted. I'm thankful for the strength that comes with this new understanding and the protection that results from it. Thank you so much for tonight's readings and for all the testimonies. I'm grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the readings and the music tonight. They were both just beautiful. Several years ago, I noticed that I'd get the thought about the age that I would be at my next birthday. Usually it was just like a number. Didn't think much about it at first until it came more frequently. And then I'd be surprised at the thought popping up or just mildly annoyed. Finally, it came to me that I needed to be prepared with a statement of truth to counteract this thought of age. Then I remembered a statement, one of a few spiritual statements that I think about when I first wake up in the morning, as we are taught to do here in the Plainfield Church. The statement that came to mind is this: I am ageless, diseaseless, and deathless because God made me so. So armed with this truth, each time that age thought came, I would immediately counter and squash it with, I am ageless, diseaseless, and deathless because God made me so. Well, that age thought came less and less until it finally stopped coming altogether. Very grateful for this healing. I am also very grateful for these practical truths that are taught here at the Plainfield Church. Also very grateful for practitioner help I am receiving here at this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland. Go ahead.
Thank you. I've just learned so much at Plainfield. From my practitioner there, the Bible studies on Saturday, and the round tables on Sundays, as well as all the Christian Science literature by early workers in Mrs. Eddy's time, which I had never even heard of until I came to Plainfield. I live in Washington, right above the D.C. line in the first Maryland suburb, and in the last 5 years there's been a huge new influx of people and big buildings where there were used to be ordinary shops. And Washington traffic is now said to be one of the 2 worst cities in the country for traffic. I never really liked driving, and as a teenager, when you're supposed to get your license when you're 16 years old, unlike others, I wasn't really eager to get it. I guess I was someone who basically was fearful. But I did get my license. And today when I was driving into D.C. To my music lesson that I take from time to time, I realized how grateful I was for having learned at Plainfield to protect myself and others, knowing God is in control. And so I could really, negotiate this heavy traffic and not be fearful. My ability to live with God is much greater now, thanks to Plainfield. I'm so grateful to God, to Jesus, to Mrs. Eddy, and to my practitioner and all those here at Plainfield, as well as my fellow members, and all these testimonies that I appreciate so much. And thank you very much for the readings on health, being of God. This is something that I work to realize in my life and appreciate so much hearing that. Good evening.
Thank you. Jeff.
Yes, good evening. Last week, I gave a testimony about an unfortunate car accident that occurred on my way to Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. It occurred to me that after I sat down after giving my testimony that I completely left out the ending. While others at accidents may call 911 at the scene of the accident, I was seeking to correct my thinking to see that there are no accidents in God's universe, and He is governing each and every one of us if we will only let go of the controls and let Him do His job. I looked the other driver in the eye. I could see he was fearful of what I was going to do. A peace came over me, and I said only 3 words: go with God. When he realized I was going to let him go, he looked very surprised, and he said, "Are you all right, sir?" In hindsight, I understand now that God made everything all right because I sought Him out in time of trouble. And He proved to be a very present help indeed. By giving this man and every man his dignity, and knowing we were all children of God, it seemed truly as if there can be no accidents when we let ourselves be governed by the one supreme God. In truth, there was no accident. only minor paint repairs, and I took care of that the next day at no cost, only some elbow grease. Moving right along, I read in this week's lesson on man about how God lets us harness the power if we are honest. I used to be a dishonest man. It was dishonesty that brought me to my knees. It is self-deception that forfeits the divine power. I was like the walking dead before I came to Plainfield and took up the sword of God's word. Now I'm a terror to error with my sword at my side. Little walking zombie thingies I tolerated myself before, when they try to enter the door, I say, out, you're not welcome here anymore. The power of the Christ saved me, and this I know because science and health tells me so. And I quote, healing the sick and reforming the sinner are one and the same thing in Christian Science. It's Mary Baker. My heart is thankful for his grace in healing sickness and reforming me, and to each and every one of you, practitioner help in this marvelous, wonder-working Christian Science Church in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here tonight, and thanks for all the healing testimonies. I am forever grateful for a healing my mother had many years ago when I had just started to study Christian Science. She was living with me then, and she had also started to read Science and Health. She developed a tooth abscess and was in quite a bit of pain. And so we both decided, when we were getting all frightened with how it looked and the severity of the pain, we would go to a dentist. We went to 2 dentists, and they were closed because it was some sort of a holiday at that time. The third one just took many, many x-rays and gave us 2 prescriptions of antibiotics for her to take for several days before they could do anything for her. Coming home, we were a little disappointed, but we both decided that no, we will not fill the prescriptions, and we were going to rely on God. I took her to her room when we came, and I just couldn't look at her face, so I walked away, knowing the little signs that I knew that this is not the truth. This is about all the prayer that I was praying, that this is not the truth. It can't be. About 2 hours later, my mother came in the living room, and she sat on the sofa, and she said, you know, God is in control. And so we both continued to pray, and shortly thereafter, the abscess broke, the swelling went down, and that very evening, she was able to eat on that side of her mouth. I think this healing really impressed me so, and I'm so grateful for it because it proved to me then that sickness of any form cannot be real. I go back to it often when that doubting voice of error says Christian Science cannot heal and tries to create all that confusion about, oh, can you really be healed through this? I have to remember what God did that day, what the truth did, God being truth. And I will never forget my gratitude, both of us, our gratitude for what was proven through Christian Science. I am so grateful that I have this to refer to. And I am so grateful that Christian Science is here to bless all mankind. And pray to do my best, as everybody else here is doing, to make this truth known to many who are seeking it. Grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
I have a few things to read from our church website bulletin board. The first, Virginia. Many thanks for the very uplifting services in this church where blessings abound. The performance on Sunday, February 19th, of But a Light Thing by Faith, Jared, and Peter, written by Peter, was so beautiful, and the words, such a valuable wake-up call to God's power and grace. Thank you all. And then Pennsylvania. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the readings on the power of right thinking this past Wednesday. They made clear that right thinking leads to right acting. These words of truth and encouragement help us to stay on the right side, even when it looks like you are in the minority and world pressure would try to take you off the narrow path of correct thinking. And then New Jersey. Recently, a practitioner told us to say often during the day, besides the first thing in the morning, that God is mind, God is my mind, God is the only pure and perfect mind. I have been doing this hourly, and it is keeping me focused on God, reflecting Him, not what the human mind is trying to tell me. I am grateful for what I am learning in the Plainfield Church. In our church, many of us had children, raised children here, and we were taught some beautiful prayers to teach the children. They were also beautiful prayers for ourselves. And just a reminder of God's presence and power. There was one, I don't know who wrote it or where it came from. It's a simple little prayer, but it also has some depth to it. Maybe some of you know it, and it is this. I am the spot where God shines through. He and I are one, not two. He wants me where and as I am. I will not worry, fret, nor plan. But if I'll be relaxed and free, He'll carry out His plan for me. I have said that poem to myself at times, especially if I ever felt less than peaceful, to just remember that oneness with the Father. That's a basic truth we're taught here, that it's not that we are here and God is somewhere else, but as Jesus said, I and my Father are one. We can prove that oneness too. We are one with the Father, and it is, as this described it, the spot where God shines through. It's a good way to think of it. You think of the light shining through the window pane. And so it is with us. And when we get rid of ourselves, of this false concept of ourself, a selfhood apart from God, and know that we are that spot where God shines through, then wonderful things begin to happen because He uses us for His good purpose. In Mrs. Eddy's article, we have it on our website about age, she says, you do now and ever must manifest the God life that is shining in you. It is working always in every part of your being to will and to do. So, when you're knowing this, that light is shining through you, it's shining through every part of you. There's no place where it isn't. And it's healing and restoring and regenerating. If there's some function that's moving too slow or too quick, no, God is there. It's just the right tempo, just the right rhythm, because it's the rhythm of God. If you feel like your eyesight is getting weak, it's God's eyesight. It's not in the matter body, it's in God. Our health is in God, our joy is in God. All good things are in God. And as we let that light shine through us, and then as was said tonight as well, that we radiate that light of God, well, all good happens. And we are not only blessed, but all who we come in contact with are blessed as well. I'm so grateful for this little prayer. I'm very, very grateful for Mary Baker Eddy giving us Christian Science, such a wonderful way of life. Those were wonderful readings tonight and such healing testimonies and beautiful music. Thanks to you all.
Thank you.